The deck of the Vanguard's Wrath trembled beneath his boots as a chain of plasma detonations lit up the black void outside the command deck. Captain Arden Rourke gritted his teeth, leaning against the reinforced carbon alloy railing, eyes fixed on the chaos unfolding just beyond the curved viewport. In the distance, a Canathian dreadship, the Eviscerator of Will, pummeled Alliance cruisers with arcing beams of red and violet energy, carving through hulls as if they were nothing but paper drifting in a solar wind. The stench of burning circuit composites filled the recycled air, and even in the artificial gravity, a sense of vertigo clung to him. Shields at 15%. "We've lost aft maneuvering thrusters," shouted Lieutenant Corrin, her voice barely audible over the blaring impact sirens. "Hold the line," Arden bellowed. "Keep our nose pointed at the jump gate. If we lose orientation, we're space." Dust. The fleet was crumbling, ships peeling away into flame and debris, signal flares blinking out like dying stars. Arden knew this wasn't a battle anymore. It was an evacuation. A coordinated retreat through the shattered veil, a hazardous rift in space-time formed by a collapsing wormhole decades ago. For most, entering the veil was suicide. But for Arden's fleet, it was the only way out. 3 years. That's how long. He'd served on the Veil front. 3 years of blood-soaked skirmishes, silent burials in the endless night, and reports that read like death poetry. The Alliance had promised glory. Instead, it delivered entropy. The Confederation, with its merciless expansion and impossible biotechnology, had turned every colony from Rayla to Scorn into glass and ash. Arden had fought them on every moon and planetoid they defiled, but now the war was all but lost, in this sector. "Command has ordered our withdrawal to Zephyr Station," said Corrin, her voice quieter now, touched by something like disbelief. Arden's brow furrowed. Zephyr? That meant high-level debrief, possibly even political theater. He activated his wrist console, skimming the encrypted message as it decrypted line by line. "Captain Arden Rourke, for distinguished action in the Veil campaign and the successful recovery of Priority Omega cargo during the EOS 9 raid, you are hereby awarded permanent command of the Vanguard's Wrath, along with custodial authority over Asset 31. Asset 31. The name sent a ripple of ice down his spine. That was no ordinary salvage. Arden had lost 32 men breaching the sealed vaults of the ruined Confederation research vessel in orbit over EOS 9, and what they found was not cargo nor technology. It was a woman. Every great journey starts with a few brave explorers. Right now, Galactic War Stories is just beginning, and your support means everything. If you love epic sci-fi battles, deep space mysteries, and the untold stories of the cosmos, hit subscribe. It's free, and it helps us grow this universe together. But she wasn't just any woman. The data files were fragmented, deliberately, corrupted. Some logs referred to her as specimen, others ambassador. Her DNA wasn't in any galactic database. Her physiology had qualities unknown even to the Confederation's vast bioarchives. Arden had only seen her once, suspended in cryostasis, her body humming with quantum stasis energy. She looked almost human, until you noticed the subtle wrongness. The soft bioluminescent glow from her veins, the shifting fractals in her eyes, the way her hair moved independently, as if sensing the air. There were whispers, unconfirmed intelligence that she belonged to a lost civilization far beyond the rim, from a world never charted, where thought and emotion were rumored to have physical form. High Command claimed she was a gift, a reward, for Arden's service, a sentient being offered like a prize, and yet Arden couldn't shake the question, who was rewarding him, and for what price? His thoughts were cut short by a piercing alarm. The jump gate was opening, the massive rings activating with a roar of folding space. It was time. "Engage the jump," Arden ordered. The Vanguard's Wrath lurched forward, engines screaming against gravitational resistance as the ship hurled itself into the swirling vortex of energy. Outside, the stars stretched and twisted, reality warping into kaleidoscopic spirals. Time dilated, colors bled into one another. For a moment, Arden's mind floated in a sea of impossible geometry, and then, silence. They had arrived. Zephyr Station hung in orbit above a brown dwarf, its segmented structure like a flower in bloom, 6 arms extending outward from a central stem, each one home to a different branch of Alliance research and diplomacy. This was no military base. It was something far stranger, the intersection of secrecy and politics, of power and science. As the docking clamps locked onto the ship with a resonant clang, Arden stood alone in the airlock chamber, armored, silent. He hadn't slept in 72 hours. The war had not broken him, but what lay beyond those doors just might. With each passing second, the metallic hiss of pressurization grew louder, like a breath being drawn before a revelation. And then the doors slid open. 2 figures waited. For him. One, a tall diplomat in obsidian robes, eyes hidden behind polished lenses. The other, her. She stood in the center of the chamber, untouched by time. Eyes like dying galaxies met his. She did not look afraid. She looked curious. She looked free. And in that moment, as the diplomat stepped forward and offered the absurd phrase, "Congratulations, Captain, your prize awaits," Arden realized something chilling. This was not a reward. It was a test, or worse, a trap. She moved like liquid light, graceful, fluid, silent. As Captain Arden Rourke stepped into the dimly lit reception chamber, flanked by 2 Alliance security drones and the ever-smirking diplomat from Central Command, all he could do was stare. She didn't flinch beneath his gaze. Her eyes met his, not with fear, not even with defiance, but with a quiet recognition, as if she'd been waiting for him, as if she already knew how this moment would unfold. "Designation, Subject 31, the diplomat intoned. "Recovered from the EOS-9 wreckage. Preliminary scans are inconclusive. No known match in any sentient species database. She is to be housed under your authority aboard the Vanguard's Wrath, as per Command Order Delta 7-1. "She has a name?" Arden asked, his voice gravel rough. The diplomat offered a smile devoid of warmth. "We believe her species refers to themselves as the Netheri, but she has not spoken until now." Before Arden could reply, her voice entered the room, not spoken, not whispered, but resonating directly into their minds. A voice like chimes swaying in a storm, both intimate and vast, as if echoing through chambers older than the stars themselves. I'm not property," she said, "and you are not my captor." A silence fell so thick it seemed to press down on the skin. One of the drones flickered in alarm. The diplomat paled, murmuring something into a wristcom about neural contamination, but Arden stepped forward, ignoring the rising protests. "You speak standard, and you know me." "I remember you," she replied, and there was no arrogance in her tone, only certainty. "You opened the vault. You didn't come for war. You came looking for something you didn't know you'd lost." He swallowed hard. In that instant, Arden felt exposed, not to her eyes, but to her presence, like she had already seen everything. In him, even the things he buried under duty and rage. The diplomat cleared his throat, forcing a brittle smile. "You'll forgive the melodrama, Captain. Subject 31's psychic capabilities are, as you can see, unusually developed. She has needs. Observe her, learn what you can, but be warned, she is not to be trusted. Some in Central believe she may be a biological weapon, genetically engineered to manipulate or seduce." The absurdity of the claim burned in Arden's chest. He wasn't a rookie recruit to be undone by a pretty face, especially not one as eerily composed as hers. Yet there was something dangerous about her, not in the way of blades or toxins, but in the way storms form on silent horizons. They were alone in the observation chamber an hour later, her behind a translucent containment veil, Arden seated before a projection terminal displaying incomplete DNA strands and erratic neural patterns. The data told him nothing, but her gaze told stories. "You're not what they think you are," he said, "and you are not what you pretend to be," she replied. Arden smirked, though the expression faltered. "Pretend to be what?" "A soldier. You wear duty-like armor, but underneath you are searching, not for victory, not for vengeance, but for meaning." He leaned back, unsettled. The lights in the chamber flickered as the station's artificial dusk cycle began. Outside, the brown dwarf's light ebbed like a dying ember. "I read your history," she continued, stepping closer to the containment field. "Your mother was taken by a Confederate slave ring. You signed up at 16 to join the core fleet under forged papers. You were the only one to survive the loss of the Titan's grace. You think the war gives you purpose, but it only distracts you." He said nothing. "Could say nothing. Why are you here, Arden?" she asked. He stared at her for a long moment, then rose. "Because I followed orders and they told me you were my reward." She laughed softly, but the sound wasn't cruel. It was sad. "I'm not a reward. I'm a question." Suddenly the station jolted. Lights dimmed, sirens flared, and a tremor ran through the floor. Arden's comm crackled to life with panicked chatter. "Unknown vessel just emerged from subspace. Repeat, unidentified ship at 0 distance. No registry. No signal." He raced for the command post, leaving her behind. But as the doors slid closed, her voice followed him, echoing without sound. "They found me." The bridge was chaos. Officers scrambled to track the incoming ship, but its signature was unlike anything in the known star charts. Not Confederate, not Alliance, not even Black Site tech. It moved like a shadow that didn't obey physics, phasing in and out of detectable space, and then it hailed them, using the Netheri language. A language no one but Subject 31 could possibly understand. The diplomat appeared beside him again, sweating now. "Captain, you must not let them take her. Whatever she is, whatever she knows, it cannot fall into enemy hands. You have authorization to destroy her, should extraction prove impossible." Arden's blood ran cold. Outside, the foreign ship loomed larger. No visible weapons, no armor plating, just a seamless obsidian hull with fractal patterns spiraling like an infinite puzzle. It didn't radiate hostility. It radiated inevitability. In that moment, Arden realized he was at the center of a conflict far older than the war he'd fought. One not of territory, but of truth. One that would unravel the very fabric of identity, loyalty, and control. Subject 31 had never been a reward. She was a sentinel, or a warning, and the real battle was just beginning. The view from the bridge was unsettling. The unknown ship, a silhouette against the fading light of the brown dwarf, hovered in the void like an enigma, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly sheen. It wasn't just the lack of any recognizable markings or technology that disturbed Arden. It was the sense that it wasn't meant to be seen. No, it wasn't hiding exactly. It was waiting. Every inch of it felt like the universe was holding its breath. "Captain, we're receiving a secondary transmission," Lieutenant Corrin reported, her voice strained. It's not in any known protocol. It's like they're trying to reach us mentally, not through our comms." Arden's mind raced. He had been trained to interpret threats. The constant hum of subspace frequencies, the cryptic messages from enemy vessels, the glitches in the electromagnetic spectrum that spelled doom. But this was different. His gut twisted with a cold certainty. "It's not just a ship," he muttered to himself. "It's something else, something alive." "The Netheri," the diplomat beside him said, his tone trembling. Subject 31, she's the key. That's why they've come. They knew she would draw them here." Before Arden could respond, a sudden deep tremor rattled the station. A massive energy pulse, originating from the mysterious vessel, exploded across the sensors, spiking the readings into the red zone. It was as if the fabric of space itself was being stretched, warped. And in the center of the disturbance was the Netheri ship, now actively broadcasting through the unknown vessel. "I told you," the diplomat hissed, clutching the edge of the tactical console. "She's connected to them. This isn't just about technology. She is the message. She is the key to their communication network, their culture, their entire existence. Whatever they're going to do, it's not just about extraction. They want her back." Arden didn't know how to respond. He had no answers, only the haunting echo of the words she'd spoken earlier. "They found me." It wasn't just the Confederation that had been looking for her. This vessel, this alien species, was something far more dangerous. They didn't care about peace treaties, resources, or even domination. They cared about something deeper. Something that Arden, and perhaps all of humanity, was not yet equipped to understand. Arden turned to the tactical display, and his pulse quickened. The pulse from the Nithari ship had caused the entire station's energy grid to destabilize. The bridge lights flickered, and Corin's voice, once sharp, now felt muffled as if she was speaking from the far side of a dream. "Captain," Corin said, her voice tense, "they're not just scanning us anymore. The frequencies are converging on our position. They're pulling us in like gravity. I don't know how much longer we can stay in orbit." The diplomat, pale and sweating, seemed to snap into focus, his eyes widening in realization. "It's trying to take us. The ship, this entire station, it's pulling us into their field of influence. It's not an accident. This was the plan?" Arden's mind raced. Plan? What kind of plan could this alien species have for an entire space station, a warship, and, most importantly, the Vanguard's wrath? Was it really just a matter of capturing Subject 31? Or was there something more insidious at play here? The Nithari woman's voice broke through the confusion again, not through the comm system, not through the diplomatic channels. No, this time it was direct, it was personal. And this time there was no ambiguity. She wasn't just speaking to him, she was calling to him. "Captain Rourke," her voice whispered inside his mind. Her, words vivid and chilling. "The war you fight is not yours. You have been set upon a path just as I have, but it is a path of lies. I was not sent to you by your commanders, nor by any force you know. I was sent to test you. You will understand soon enough. All of this, the ships, the war, the pain, it is a facade. And you, Captain, are the final piece of a much older design." The words chilled him to the bone. A test, a final piece. Could this be a manipulation? Was the war, this endless, consuming conflict, nothing more than a stage for something much more sinister? How could it be possible that this woman, this alien being, knew so much? And why had she been brought to him? "She's playing with your mind, Captain," the diplomat said, but there was an edge of desperation in his voice. "This is what they do. They manipulate, they seduce, they destroy. She cannot be allowed to win." Before Arden could respond, the ship shuddered again, this time far more violently. The station's outer hull screamed as if it were being bent by an invisible hand. The comm system crackled with a fresh transmission, this time a garbled sequence of syllables. It was the Nithari language again, though no translator had been able to decode it. But then through the noise something else appeared, a pulse of consciousness, a sharp alien thought, familiar somehow, like a memory not yet realized. And then the voice came again. "You cannot stop what is already set in motion. You are already a part of it." The moment the words ended, the lights on the bridge went out completely, plunging them into total darkness. A low hum filled the air, like the deep, resonant rumble of the universe itself shifting. The station's alarms began to scream, but nothing was moving. A single word passed through Arden's mind, cold and unbidden: ascension. The reality of what was happening started to become clear, and it terrified him. This wasn't a random alien encounter. This wasn't even a battle over the war. This was something far greater, something that reached back millennia, to a time before human space exploration, before the galactic empires, before the First War was even fought. And the key to everything, the truth of it all, was standing right in front of him, gazing back through the shimmering glass barrier of the containment cell. The Nithari, her kind, her species, her existence. Was this all part of an ancient scheme? Was she truly a weapon, a messenger, or something more? Or something far older, something that had set everything in motion? Arden didn't know what to believe anymore, but one thing was certain. The war he had fought, the cause he had devoted his life to, was just the surface of something far deeper. And Subject 31, the woman who had never been a prize but a harbinger, was going to lead them all to the very edge of reality itself. The hum in the station's core grew louder, vibrating through the walls like a living entity. Arden's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the empty blackness where the bridge lights had once been. The alarms blared, desperate, disjointed, warning him of a threat he couldn't yet grasp. And in the eerie silence that followed, The weight of something watching, waiting, settled over him. The holographic interface flared back to life, casting an unnatural blue glow across the command center. Corin and the rest of the crew were silent, their faces illuminated with a mix of fear and confusion. The station was no longer under their control. The Nithiri ship had breached the station's defenses, but not through brute force. No, it had infiltrated their systems without leaving a trace, slipping through the cracks of their technological understanding like water through sand. "We've lost external comms," Corin said, her voice strained. "The station's grid is failing across the board. We can't call for reinforcements. If we don't figure out what's happening..." She didn't need to finish the thought. Arden was already on his feet, feeling the icy grip of urgency clutch his spine. He had to act. They all had to act, before whatever this was could unravel everything. "Captain," the diplomat said, his voice trembling now. "The ship, it's not just broadcasting. It's syncing with us. Our entire comm network, our data systems, our minds, it's all being merged into one collective." He staggered backward, staring at the projections on the display screen. "I warned you. This is what they do. They link, they integrate, they take your thoughts, your memories, and your soul." The words hit harder than a physical blow. He was right in a way. Arden had felt it, the alien presence in his mind, seeping in like a thick fog, clouding his thoughts. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the knowledge that in some unfathomable way, it wasn't just the Nithiri who were doing this. The pulse that emanated from the unknown ship, the one that destabilized their systems, it was him they wanted. He was the key. He turned toward the diplomat, eyes narrowing. "What are you saying, that this was always the plan? That I've been manipulated this entire time?" The diplomat recoiled, his face twisting with what seemed like both terror and guilt. "You, Captain, your bloodline was specifically targeted. You are connected to the Nithiri in ways you've yet to comprehend. This war, this rivalry, this galaxy-wide conflict, it's been engineered from the shadows, all to lead to this moment. You were chosen." The world seemed to tilt. Arden staggered backward, unable to process the weight of what he was hearing. Chosen? Him? Just a soldier caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. He ran his hands through his hair, his mind racing. It couldn't be true, could it? His mother had been taken by the Confederate slave ring, true. His military service had been an act of vengeance, born of loss and grief, true. But what did this all have to do with the Nithiri? Why did she feel like something he should remember? He snapped back to the present as a new transmission pulsed through the comm system. It was the Nithiri woman's voice again, but this time it wasn't just words. It was an image, clear and sharp, like a vision within his mind. He saw himself, not as he was now, but as he had been, a child, standing beside his mother, laughing, unaware of the storm that would one day tear them apart. Then the vision shifted, the image of a vessel, ancient, sleek and black as the void. He was inside it, his hands gripping the controls as it sliced through space. But this wasn't just any ship. This was the ship, the one that had arrived, outside the station. It had always been there, within him, always. The vision shattered and Arden stumbled, gripping the console for support. His head swam with the weight of it all. The Nithiri were not just an alien species. They were relatives. They were not invaders, not conquerors. They were seekers. They had been searching for him for decades. And the war, it was a ruse, a distraction, a test. "You," he whispered, voice hoarse, eyes wide with realization. "You've been guiding me all this time, this whole war. It was never about winning. It was about awakening." The Nithiri woman's voice replied, now more like a whisper in the space between them, filled with understanding. "Yes, Arden, this war was never yours to win, it was only yours to begin." In that moment he understood. The Nithiri were not just the key to an ancient technology or a forgotten species. They were the architects of something far older, a ATT network of minds and memories, spanning centuries, civilizations, and even galaxies. The war, the conflict, it had all been designed to create a conduit, a singular event in which everything would converge. And he, Arden Rourke, was the catalyst, the missing piece, But there was still one question left, one final piece to the puzzle. "What now?" he asked, though he wasn't sure who he was asking. The woman's voice echoed again, this time soft, almost maternal. "Now, Captain, you awaken, and you become more than what you were. This is the end of your old life, and the beginning of something far greater. The ascension has begun." And just like that, the tension in the room seemed to break. The weight that had settled in his chest lifted. No longer a soldier, no longer just a man chasing vengeance. He was something more. The truth of the universe unfolded before him, and with it, a path into the stars that he had never before understood. The lights flickered back to life, the hum of the station now a gentle vibration, almost peaceful. The unknown vessel had stopped pulsing with energy. In fact, it seemed to be waiting, just like before. It wasn't demanding, it wasn't attacking. It was simply waiting. Corin glanced up, wide-eyed. "Captain, the systems are stabilizing. We've regained control." Arden looked at the diplomat, whose face had drained of color. "Do you understand now?" Arden asked, his voice calm but full of certainty. "This war doesn't matter. The galaxy doesn't matter. What matters is what comes next." The diplomat was silent, trembling. Arden turned to the view screen, staring into the void. Somewhere out there, the future awaited, the true future. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't afraid. He was ready. If you enjoyed this journey, be sure to leave a comment, like this video, and share it with others who crave the wonders of the galaxy. Your support means everything as we explore the depths of space together.